One of the great surprises in Cleveland today, something that you will not hear on any national broadcast, any national television show. Cleveland Browns have won 4 out of their last 5 games. When was the last time we could say that? The Browns are winning, even though it seems like there's bad news that follows this team every week. But heck, you guys have heard, everyone has heard so much bad news. We thought for a change this week, we're going to have a little Browns challenge to start the show. And that is to give a Browns analysis of the recent updates on the Browns and just talk about the positives, no negatives. I'm going to be keeping my ears open for sarcasm too. No, we won't even go into how you could apply that sarcasm. I'll be listening to that too.
You?
Keep it positive. Let's start now here. Keep it positive. As long as you can go positive. Otherwise, I'm going to cut you off. We're going to go to the next person. Drew, big challenge here.
This is a big one for me. You know, I've been outspoken about this regime, but I do have a little nugget, a little tidbit that I read on Twitter.com the other day. And this is via my favorite analytics site. This is Football Outsiders. They do a value over average. In this case, it's I'm talking about the DVOA, defense value over average. It means is it's their way of sort of taking into account the totality of all NFL defenses, scoring, yardage, opponents of opponents, to really get a value of what this team, what each team in the NFL contributes defensively. And the Browns have faced the hardest DVOA schedule. It means that according to the people that do this for a living, the Cleveland Browns have faced the hardest defensive schedule in the NFL today, bar none. And that's backed up by some of the standard metrics as well. You can look at the scoring defenses. We've given you some of that on the podcast in weeks past, but the advanced analytics back up those same numbers. Facing the hardest schedule in the NFL on an offense with a brand new system, with a 24-year-old quarterback, this team is on pace to have 2 wide receivers to go over 1,000 yards, and they have the NFL's league-leading rusher. So there's a lot to go on here. There's a lot of reasons to think, okay, maybe this team starts to get it. Unfortunately, it might be a little too late this year, but there's reason to believe that they have sort of been thrown into the fire, into the deep end of the pool, and they managed to sort of tread water through that. And there's reason to believe the latter half of the last couple of games this year and into next year, assuming that schedule lightens up a little bit, which it almost has to because they can't play the NFC West again and the AFC East again. With Buffalo and New England and everybody. So it has to, by definition, get easier next year. And when it does, with a 25-year-old starting quarterback, with hopefully another year in this sort of spread system or a system similar to it, there's reason to believe this offense is going to get a lot better, assuming they keep it together, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. We'll challenge you there. Eric, What more positives? I think everyone loves seeing Nick Chubb, number 1 rusher in the league. What else are you focusing on that's a positive this season?
Well, a part of the team that has gone under the radar and has been pretty awful the last 10 years since Brad Seeley's been there, and that is who but is good now is because we have Mike Prefer as special teams coordinator. I think he's done a fantastic job with this unit. They're, like I said, they're playing probably the best they've been in at least 10 years. Jamie Gillen came in as a rookie. He's been having his, pretty good moments and some better than good moments, which is good. Austin Schobert has picked it up since his first game. And, last week's game, he made a clutch 53-yarder to extend the lead from 5 to 8. And it's the little things like that. If he can keep that up, he's going to have a really good career here. The coverage units are doing their job, and the penalties have been cut down. I remember how many times that was not the case, but now you're not seeing that automatic flag whenever we get that return, or a silly penalty like a face mask. Guys are doing their jobs, and if we could at least be competent, and I think we're better than competent, kind of beat teams in that area, then we're going to have a good chance to win games. Second of all, Baker Mayfield I have the confidence he will improve. He's making mistakes, but I think he will get a good chance to work on his fundamentals and work on trying to get the ball to whomever and not force passes. I think he's a smart enough player to realize in order to stay in this league and thrive, you can't be a one-trick pony or just have a few gadgets here or there. You got to have what's the phrase I want to use? You got to have a very large portfolio, I guess, of ability to display in this league. And I think we saw some of that on display last year, and I think he has the capability. So whoever is teaching him, whether he goes to his own guy or whether it's whoever, I think he's going to get some good tutelage, and I think he should improve or at least get back to where he was his rookie season before teams had film on him. Next thing is, if we can re-sign Kareem Hunt, we will have a solid backfield for 2020 and beyond. I'm very intrigued to hear what kind of contract we could get for him, especially because he was on the 1-year deal this year. But if we can, sign him to a modest contract while Chubb still has 2 years, I believe, left of his rookie deal, I think you get 4 for that. So we should have a solid room right there for the next 2 guaranteed. And I'm not going to go negative of the fiasco about Myles Garrett, but it does save the team a lot of money not having to lock him up to that max contract. So we will have more money to spread elsewhere if we can either extend his window for 1 more year. By that, I mean just giving him that 5th-year option and then kind of going from there, giving him a shorter contract till everything, kind of dies down, blows over. But if that means we can get another offensive tackle or some other person on this team that can help improve the team in 2020 going forward, then I'm all for it. So, there's a lot of positives out there. And I'm kind of disappointed by a lot of media members that are strictly focusing on the negatives. I mean, the nitpicky don't need that. So, I'm gung-ho, all guns blazing for 2020.
I was hoping you'd drop and diversify your bonds.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah. Of course.
Really towing the line on some negativity there, Sonia. Come on. All right, one guy you guys did not mention who's been a major positive this season is Joe Schobert. You see him all across the field, always making tackles, a sure tackle at the linebacker position. He will be a free agent at the end of the year. Am I right on that one? Yes?
You are, yes.
Yes.
So that will be, I would rather see Schobert signed than Kareem Hunt. I think that looks like our number one priority as far as signing a free agent at the end of this year. Joe Schobert surely is going to be a Pro Bowler at the end of the year. I would say, he's been a consistent force at the linebacking position within the defense. He probably is the heart and soul of the defense, just based on his attendance in games, his performance. You just have to look at Schobert as he is the face of the Browns defense right now. But I will also give a positive to the secondary. The secondary has been a revolving door of many different players. Some players have left the team, but some players have injuries. But this team has been performing well, or this aspect of the team has been performing well. I saw that you look at the pass defense as far as yards allowed, 8th fewest yards in the NFL for the pass defense. So performing really well, playing against some tough teams, but the pass defense with so many players coming in and out. I think we've seen Greedy Williams make some great plays. Denzel Ward is a steady force as well. So numbers at the end of the day, very good. And if we see more consistency without those injuries, things will only improve. So some great things on the defense. And of course, yeah, great numbers. Lots of targets to OBJ and Jarvis. They're getting the ball. OBJ 12th in the league, Jarvis 13th. They're seeing a lot of balls. The offense has had to adapt to losing Njoku, a lot of different tight ends. Maybe we get the ball to RSJ a little bit more, but
you went there.
He had a big catch last week.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just noticed this in this past game. Like when he caught the ball and went off to the sideline, he is enormous out there.
Yeah.
So, anyways, a good activity here to be a little bit positive, but maybe one of our players should thrive on the negativity of someone else, and that is Baker Mayfield thriving on his past relationship with Kliff Kingsbury. Maybe they've buried the hatchet and Baker wants to be the bigger man.
That's not him. That's not who he is. He'll never change. He's told us he's never going to change. What we love about him here on the I Still Believe in Cleveland podcast, that's our guy. He's not going to change. He's going to put up the coach's decision for why he got benched for some walk-on, for some other walk-on. I can't. I've had this game circled since the schedule came out or since they hired him.
Yeah, it seems like it's cooled down the tiniest of bits. There's been so much other news that people have focused on other things. And, they say this is over. But, just reliving a little bit of the history, like you said, Drew, Baker was a walk-on, started the first 5 games, had a leg injury, and was replaced. And then Kingsbury brought in his boy, Davis Webb. Davis Webb, tall quarterback, big arm, but had problems against some of the tougher opponents on their schedule. Baker went on to win the Rookie of the Year based on his performance. But it sounds like there was no communication between Kingsbury and Baker. Baker did not get a scholarship after his performance.
Your starting quarterback. Imagine that. Your starting quarterback wins Freshman of the Year in the Big 12 Conference, and you don't give him a scholarship. Think of how ridiculous that is.
That's why Texas Tech is Texas Tech. I apologize to our Lubbock listeners, but it's true.
So there's there's a little bit of an issue there that for Baker's history of taking it out on past coaches, past rivals. We'll see the next time we play the 49ers if he's got a message for Bosa. But Eric, what do you think?
Ain't somebody you want to mess with, man. You could have let that one go, I think.
Eric, coming up.
You could do a longest yard situation there.
What do you expect from this game upcoming? Is Baker going to take it out on the Cardinals? And what do you expect to see this weekend?
Well, I surely hope he does. I feel like I say that every week, though. I could see him using the slight, obviously, of the non-scholarship as fuel to the fire for Kliff Kingsbury. There's already been questions to Kliff from the media asking, how their relationship is, and he thinks they're fine and moved on, but that's his side of the story. So I'm guessing Baker will say he's moved on or whatever, and that's not really the case. But I guess to Drew's point, that's usually not his his MO. So maybe he will say something to the contrary. But regardless, the Cardinals are 3-9-1. They've lost 6 games in a row. So it's not like we're facing the Steelers that were, going up that big battle a couple weeks ago. And their 3 wins this year are the Falcons, the Giants, and the Bengals. Not a murderer's row of teams that they have defeated. They have tied the Lions, who are also 3-9-1. So again, we are going out west, someplace that the Browns they don't play there regularly. So it's going to be a change of atmosphere. They're going to be indoors in that toaster-looking stadium. But, basically, I just hope Baker kind of treats this like the Dolphins game. just get those points early, keep the foot on the gas. And unlike the second half, don't kind of get too complacent. And if you want to milk the clock, that's fine, but don't get too cute with it. That's more of a Freddie thing. Obviously, he's the one calling the plays, not Baker. But if he wants to go and be like the Bengals game last year in Cincinnati, I'd be all good with that. What do you have, like 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half? I don't. Kyler Murray. They have Kyler Murray. They have Patrick Peterson, and I can name 1 or 2 more guys on the team. I mean, Baker should be able to light them up. They have the talent. But we've been saying that all year. I just really hope he can. I really hope he can find his weapons, move the ball downfield. I don't care who has the targets. I just want to see points on the board. You hear you read the articles and you hear the things on Twitter about that one pass to OBJ on the left side that he was out of bounds, and you hear about Nick Chubb being wide open for a 13-yard gain. It's all you got to throw your ego out the door. I understand he is who he is, but I just hope at some point. I'm kind of getting a little off topic, but I don't care. I got to vent a little bit. At some point, we got to make sure focusing on the team and moving the ball downfield. I don't care who it goes to, whether it's Ricky Seals-Jones or OBJ. If it's 3rd and 5, if you move the sticks on 3rd and 5 to get the first down and the next play's a touchdown, what did that 3rd and 5 play matter? It just prevented your punting team from giving the ball back to the other team. So all that being said, I think this is something that Baker's going to take a challenge with. I think he likes playing on the road. I think he likes shutting people up, whether that's a former coach, whether that's opposing fans. And I think he's going to have a solid contest, and I hope the rest of the team joins him in playing well.
You care a little bit if it's Ricky Seals-Jones. You don't have to lie to us. Yeah. You care a little bit if that's your guy.
Sure.
Drew, what do you think about this upcoming matchup? I mean, just Baker's psyche right now. Sort of took it from the media, of course, with he maybe threw the medical squad under the bus,
Sure.
Whatever. Probably not the best thing to say to your own medical team. I know he's trying to win over OBJ and try and be a leader to the players in that locker room and try and keep people engaged. But what do you think about Baker's psyche? Is he softening as we go to face a former nemesis in Kliff Kingsbury?
No, I don't think he is. No, I think he is. He has said he is who he is. He's not going to change. He's, as much as we would like for him to take a dump off to Kareem Hunt on 2nd and 5 to keep the chains moving when it's an obvious wide open throw, he's going to throw it down the field to Jarvis Landry, who's, you have to make a perfect throw, and he didn't, and that's one play that ended up being just fine, but that's who he is. You take the bad with the good, and so no, I don't think he's softening at all. I think that assuming that the Browns play pretty well, I don't think he's going to stare the coach down the field as he moves backwards for 50 yards like he did to Hugh, but I expect him to be motivated to face a former coach. So no, I think that he very much is who he is. You and I had talked about this a little bit. We wish he could be a little better in saying nothing like every other person, but that is not who he is, right? People get upset at athletes for being robots, for giving them the exact same answer to every single question, every single time. You put the robot up there. The next team we're playing is the greatest team ever, right? Like it's the exact same response to every single question. And that's not who he is, right? He is his own person. And the worst thing you can do is be fake in the NFL, right? They see right through it. And that is not how, you can lead teams. People saw right through that with Johnny Manziel. He tried to say exactly what was right when he wasn't that sort of a person. And that made him, he had a lot of other issues, but, with Baker, that is who he is, right? If OBJ had this hernia thing and it went undiagnosed, he's going to tell you the truth. This is an interesting game, and I think the playoffs are slim to none, those chances. But this game, I think, has some importance long term in being able to show what this offense can do against a team that's not very good defensively. I think the Browns defense is going to be in a little bit of trouble with this offense. They do have some pretty good players. They do have a good running game. They have a pretty good dynamic young quarterback in Kyler Murray. I think the Cardinals are going to score some points, but I think the Browns can score enough to make the offense look like what we thought they'd be. Hopefully get a W and see if we can't pick up a miracle here these last couple weeks.
Speaking of impacting a team for the long term, let's move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers and a couple of different factors of things that might impact this team this season for the future. The first one reports that John Beilein is having issues engaging with the team or getting the team's ear with his attention to detail and fundamentals. Reports out there that there's some players who are not engaged, which Tristan Thompson vehemently had denied. So that's out there. But then after that report, we've heard that the Cleveland Cavaliers are now interested in trading Kevin Love. I'm not sure if there's a connection between those two things. Kevin has always been a great friend of Cleveland and, a pretty level-headed person. There hasn't been any sort of issues with him in the past other than injury issues. But he has always been the talk of trade rumors. And he even addressed that saying, hey, this is nothing new for me. So I'll ask you guys. We'll start with Drew first on this one. What is this team going to look like without Kevin Love? Do you like this idea? Do you think it's time to move on from Love? And what are some of the possibilities? He's got a pretty big contract.
Yeah, he does, but there's a couple things working in the Cavaliers' favor here. The timing is sort of right with this, and what I mean by that is that in free agency this summer, people went everywhere. Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Westbrook moved, Chris Paul moved, trades, like things happened. Things went down where the NBA is a very different place now than it was in 2015, 16, 17, 18. It is a much different league right now. Jimmy Butler moved, like a lot of things happened. And as a result of that, there's almost no talent, no superstar type talent. I don't know that Kevin Love is a superstar. Let's say no stars are available in free agency, and there's almost no stars available via trade. So the Cavs are operating from a position of strength here. They have one of the few gettable stars out there on the market. The Cavs also have almost $67 million in expiring contracts. That obviously doesn't count Kevin Love. He has a couple more years on his deal. But Tristan Thompson, Jordan Clarkson, and Delly, just three of those names, they have a lot of salary cap coming off next year, so they can afford to take on some in a deal for Love. And so there's a lot of speculation about Love wanting to go to Portland. I have no idea how they make that work. Portland has no people they'd be willing to trade that I'd be interested in. But I do have two scenarios that I read up on, just some hypotheticals here. The first is the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix is a really interesting target because James Jones is the general manager now in Phoenix. Kevin Love at one point called James Jones the best teammate he's ever had. James Jones was with those Cavs teams for his time in Cleveland, won a championship, with the Cavs. So really good friends, and James Jones would certainly be willing to take on Kevin's contract and take on the player. So who do the Cavs get back? There's a couple of interesting players there. I'll give you three. They'd have to take on Tyler Johnson, who he makes a whole bunch of money and he's not very good. You take that on to make the numbers work. So let's talk about the assets. They get power forward Dario Saric. He's a stretch four. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's not quite the talent that Kevin Love is, but he is in that ballpark. And they also get small forward Mikal Bridges. So they get a really good defensive stopper. He's only 23 years old. Bridges is 23 years old. He has a 7'1" wingspan, and he can do a lot at that small forward position, which is just a gaping black hole right now for the Cavs. So that was the one I liked the most. The other possibility that I really liked was Sacramento. This package would include power forward Harry Giles and the sort of the star of the deal, the name everybody's going to know, Bogdanovic. He's their sixth man, but he's a really good player. He's only 26 or 27. And he'd be a massive improvement at small forward. So you take those guys on. You'd have to take on one other contract in there. I don't know exactly. I think Trevor Ariza, you take on that deal, and then he leaves after the year. But you can trade Kevin and get back a starting power forward, which you'd need, and a starting small forward. And I think that package is doable. They might even be able to get some sort of heavily protected first-round pick back. As we know, those first-round picks can sometimes really work out for you, where you end up drafting somebody with some talent. Of course, I'm talking about my guy Dylan Windler, but there's also some people on the Cavs now that that can attest to being able to sort of pay those off. So those are the two names I'm looking at: Sacramento and Phoenix. I think there's a really good landing spots, and I think the Cavs get two starters in return for Love.
Yeah, Love, 31 years old, which I was surprised, thinking he was a little bit older, but only 31, injury problems. And then the other factor to think about with the new draft rules, the new lottery rules, if you don't make the playoffs, you've got a pretty good chance of having a high pick. So that might add some value to a lot of teams' picks, and add what the Cavs could get out of a pick if they could have some unprotected picks even after the lottery selection is made. Eric, what do you think? Are you ready to cut ties on Love? 31 years old. It just seems so young, and he would have so much more they could offer to the team. Do you want that instability?
Well, I am a stats guy, so I broke it down by the stats of Kevin Love. He's averaging 15.6 points per game, his worst since 2009-2010 season, his second season in the NBA. He's got almost 3 turnovers, 2.7 turnovers per game, his highest of his career. Something you don't see a lot from a power forward. You might see some from a point guard or a 2 guard or a LeBron James facing the Golden State Warriors in the finals. So he is coming down. This is his 12th season in the league. But looking at on the positives, he's averaging over 15 points a game. He's averaging over 10 rebounds a game. He's a guy who is a pro's pro, who knows the ins and outs of the league, who can come cold off the bench to a team in the playoffs that needs a 3 or needs somebody who can have a couple point lead, that they just need rebounds and to move the ball down court. And I think that would be a wise move for them. And to Drew's point, this is the time to strike while the iron's hot for the Cavs. They're not going anywhere with him. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. So within that, I could see a big window opening 2 to 3 years from now. At that point, Kevin Love could be 34 years old. He'll be averaging 11 points and 8 rebounds a game. And he's only going to be deteriorating from this unless he gets some Justin Verlander fountain of youth. Although I have my theories about that. Anyways, right now is a good time for the Cavs to move on from Kevin. We appreciate everything he's done. He's been a solid player. He's been quiet. He's been, doing what he's asked, but I think it works for both sides. And if you want to trade to the Suns or the Kings, those are two teams that are not usually playoff contenders. So, if you want to trade to somebody, if we can get a draft pick from them as well as assets now, I'd be all for it. Especially, based on their recent history, that could move up or down depending on how the ping pong balls are pulled in April this spring.
Yeah, I'm going draft picks or bust. I'd be fine with keep Love around. He's an attraction for the actual team, get people into the stadium. I think he can help the younger players. But yeah, if he is the source behind that call against Beeline of people aren't paying attention, yeah, it might be time to go.
It's hard to get a good draft pick for Kevin. The teams that have the good draft picks don't want to trade.
Right.
And teams that can use him to win a championship don't have the high draft picks. So you gotta try to figure that out.
It's not very clear. Just like when I look at the bet lines, I'm not very clear of what team to pick. And that is my segue. That is my segue for
you
this.
guys anyway with that stuff.
We will get into our NFL picks for this week. And hey, how about I go first this week? We usually put the pressure on Eric with the main event being Mr. Swally Dog. But let me start it off for this week. So we've got 3 picks on Thursday. We've got the Ravens and the Jets, I believe. A pretty big spread for that matchup. Everyone on the running backs bandwagon. I'm going to stay on. Well, I'm not going to stay on there. I'm going to just watch it go by and predict that bandwagon is going to win. The Baltimore Ravens minus 15.5. I just think it's going to be a blowout. Ravens are still rolling along, and the Jets not looking too good. So I'm going to go Ravens. Lock of the week, I'm going to go with the value pick here, the Bears, plus 4.5. I think they've actually been going in the right direction. Trubisky has been playing better as of late. They're going up against the Packers. Packers have been very solid too, been playing well. Rivalry game between those two teams. I just think that spread is a little bit big. So we're going to go Bears plus 4.5. And then, no surprise here, the Cleveland Browns minus 2.5. Eric, what do you got?
Thursday night game. For whatever reason, I think I'm going to take the points. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. New York Jets plus 15.5. That's a huge spread. I think the Ravens are going to win, but I think the Jets are going to keep it close. The lock of the week is, again, another one that I shouldn't be picking, but I don't care, is the Bills at Steelers over 36.5 points. That is extreme low. I know we got
a really low number.
We have Josh Allen versus Duck Goose. I mean, we got 2 bad offenses, but I think somebody's going to get 28 points. It's going to be like a 28-21. 24-21 kind of battle. I think they're going to hit the over on that one. And then last but not least, Cleveland at Arizona. Browns have a lot of things going against them, internal strife, locker room, but they're a better team. But every time they've been better, I've been saying that they've been losing. But I'm reversing the jinx and saying the Browns are going to win. Lay those 2.5 points. Browns are the Cardinals.
Okay, money bags. What's going on?
Get that out of here. Just another 2-1 week. 18 wins to 7 losses. There's a huge bag of money right here. Here's how it works. You give your bookie $300 and you say, hold on to this. Just hold on to this for the duration of this week. At the conclusion of this NFL week, you give me back my $300 plus an additional $80. Week in, week out, 2-1. That's all we do here. 18 wins, 7 losses. That includes a 4-pack of wins on Thanksgiving. You're welcome. This week, to go 2-1, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go the Thursday night game. We're going to take the under 45.5 on Ravens Jets. The number is a lot, and I don't necessarily love the under with these teams, but I think the Jets play a pretty good defense. They have some of their starters available now. They weren't there in the beginning of the season. There's some history between these teams. C.J. Mosley for the Jets used to play for the Ravens. I think he can give them some insight into at least some of the strengths of the Ravens. I know it's a different offensive scheme now, but he knows what those players like to do. I think combined with that, we get under 45 points scored. For my lock of the week, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to beat Ryan Sponseller's
okay.
Jets. Ryan Sponseller's Bears, I'm sorry. That's 4.5 points, and I think the Packers are just a flat-out better team. I think they're playing good ball. I understand the Bears had a really good game. Mitch Trubisky looked like a starting quarterback against the Dallas Cowboys, but I think that is an aberration. I think we get bad Mitch Trubisky on the road in Green Bay. So I'm going to take the better quarterback, and I'm going to take the better team there, and I hope they win by 5 or more. And for the Browns, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him. You know, it's been I've been pretty good picking this, so maybe there's some maybe there's some good karma there. Maybe this trend continues that we hit this game again, and this time I'm on the home team. I think they're the better team. I think these defenses kind of struggle, both of them, especially the Browns without their best player. But I think they can outscore this team, and I think the Browns win this game somewhere along the lines of 27-21.
Eric, the light's back on, but we're going to turn the lights out on this week's episode.
Just in the nick of time.
Thank you guys again. We will we'll be watching. Browns, let's get another win.
Sounds good. Go Browns.
Go Browns.